Today we'll discuss the SGLT2 inhibitors. That's the newest anti-diabetic class of medications. Drugs like empagliflozin, dapagliflozin and canagliflozin comes under this class. We'll see how this SGLT2 inhibitors work in diabetes. Broadly, SGLT2 inhibitors removes the excess amount of a glucose through the urine in diabetic patients. SGLT2 inhibitors like dapagliflozin, empagliflozin and canagliflozin prevents reabsorption of a glucose from the kidney. So, the question arises over here. What is reabsorption of the glucose? And how does it take place? Friends, we are aware that the blood vessel which is carrying a blood also carries the glucose with it. When a blood travels from the blood vessels to the kidney for a filtration, along with the blood, the glucose also enters into the kidney. Kidneys removes the impurities in the form of urine. But since the glucose is an important source of energy for the body, glucose is not removed as such in the urine. This glucose is going back into the blood vessels. This going back of a glucose from the kidney to the blood vessel is named glucose reabsorption. So glucose reabsorption is glucose going back from the kidney to the blood vessels. Within the kidneys, there is a structural functional unit of a kidney present, which has been named as nephron. So, when we say that the glucose from the blood enters into the kidney, so within a kidney, actually glucose enters into the nephron. On the nephron, there is a specialized pumps or a proteins present. The first part of a nephron is named a proximal tubule. So the first part of a nephron is a proximal tubule. On the proximal tubule, the beginning of a proximal tubule, the pumps are present. These pumps are named SGLT2 or sodium glucose cotransporter 2 pumps. Glucose travels through the length of a kidney, and with the help of this pump, it goes back into the blood. So this is how SGLT2 pumps are responsible for taking the glucose back into the blood vessels. 90% reabsorption of a glucose taking place through SGLT2 pump, while only 10% is taking place through SGLT1 pump. Thus, a blood glucose reabsorption from a kidney is taking place largely through SGLT2 pumps. Now, what happens in diabetes? In diabetes, there is a upregulation of SGLT2 pumps. When I say upregulation means in the people with the diabetes, SGLT2 functions increases. In return, kidney starts absorbing more glucose and sending back to the blood. So the blood glucose rises. Let me give it in the number. Normally, a person who's non-diabetic, kidney doesn't starts excreting the glucose into the urine till 180 mg per deciliter. But in a person who's a diabetes, a kidney even do not release the glucose into the urine till 220 mg per deciliter. That means a diabetic person has more ability to take the glucose back into the blood. Reabsorption capacity is high. Why? Because the SGLT2 pumps in diabetes shows higher functioning, or the more functioning their expressions increases. So, how SGLT2 inhibitors comes into the picture? What is the role of SGLT2 inhibitors in the diabetes? As you are aware that the glucose with the help of SGLT2 pump enters into the blood, and in return a blood glucose level rises in diabetic patients. More glucose enters through the SGLT2 pumps and the blood glucose rises. So, to control the blood glucose levels, we are providing SGLT2 inhibitors like dapagliflozin, canagliflozin, or empagliflozin, which then move directly to the SGLT2 pump and start blocking the SGLT2 pump. Since the pumps are already blocked, this transfer of a glucose from the nephron to the blood is inhibited. Instead, the glucose starts traveling through the length of nephron and it excreted in the urine. Now, so glucose starts coming to the urine instead of going back to the blood vessels, and thus the blood glucose level declines. This is how the SGLT2 inhibitors work. In summary, SGLT2 inhibitors like dapagliflozin, canagliflozin, empagliflozin goes and block SGLT2 pump, which is responsible for 90% reabsorption of a glucose, so that a glucose rather entering into the blood passes through the nephron and it is excreted in the form of urine, so the blood glucose level does not rise and it decreases. Thanks. Please do like, subscribe and share if you find useful.